Hey guys, welcome back to Andy's Dinosaur Reviews, and today we are back again with yet another dragon figure, not a dinosaur, yet again. But we'll get through this line soon enough. You can see this time we've got our first Toothless figure. This is the ultimate Plasma Blast Toothless, and I'm pretty intrigued to see what this one's like. It's got what looks to be a pretty fun action feature and stuff. Very nice artwork, just like they have had the entire way through. Really cool art of, again, Toothless here on the front. On the side, you can see the How to Train Your Dragon logo and part of Toothless's wing. And then on the other side, pretty much the same thing, minus the wing. And then here on the back, again, another shot of the figure. So let's pop this open and check it out. So there is Toothless now standing before us. Sculpt-wise, I think it looks really quite nice. The paint, you know, there's not a whole lot to Toothless that you really need to consider. So I think, again, I mean, it's pretty hard to mess that up, so it looks okay. And one thing I will say is right now, as you can see, I am having a hard time getting that foot down onto the ground, and I'm not too sure why. I mean, obviously, I know why the tail's holding it up, but for some reason, like, I can't get the tail down enough where the foot can touch, and it's not like it's an articulated tail. It doesn't have any sort of wire bendability or anything, so a little annoying just visually to see that that foot is always up off of the ground, but I feel like that's kind of a minor nitpick for the most part. If we bring the figure in and we get a nice, actually we're going to readjust the camera to get a closer look at this one, just to make a little more room for me here. But if we bring it in, we take a closer look, you can see again the head sculpt looks pretty nice. We've got some decent looking fine detail, fairly crisp looking skin texture as you move up into the top of the head of Toothless. We can also see the eyes look pretty good. Again, obviously they've been applied with a decal. They have a nice wet look. They have life to them, color to them. Really quite like the eyes on these figures. I think the only one I didn't notice a decal on was the Red Death figure. I think they were painted, but definitely some nice decals for Toothless. Of course, you've got quite a bit of articulation on this one. One area is the mouth. We can see the teeth sculpted out pretty nicely. Also a pinkish tone there for the inside of the mouth, like a dark pinkish tone. We can take note to the tongue right there, which also looks pretty good. Nice kind of little shine in there as well, kind of giving it a wet look. As you move back, you can see the saddle here. Unfortunately, we don't have anybody to ride on the figure because it doesn't come with a human that I noticed in the pack. So it's Toothless just alone, but the saddle and everything does look quite nice. It has the little kind of like spokes here for the human to be attached to, again, so that you can't slide it into the legs, which is how you attach the humans to the dragons. You can see the straps lead down here along the underside of the throat. They're all painted pretty nicely, and also, again, you can see more straps leading back into the body of the dragon. As you lead down, we can notice some articulation right here, again, forward and back. That's really about it. There isn't really flashy articulation on these guys. You can't move out away from the body or anything like that, but it, you know, it serves its purpose. As you move down, the skin texture in the front leg looks pretty decent as well. You can see the toes and everything look good. A little bit of creasing in the skin as you lead down into the toes. Again, the figure does overall have a nice kind of shiny look to it, which is also how you would see Toothless. Again, always seems to have a bit of a shiny look to him. And as you move back, we can take note to the skin texture in the stomach, as well as more straps kind of leading back along. They did a really good job, honestly, of painting out the straps for the figure, which I really quite like. As you move up here to the top, you can see those ridges following along the back. There is one area that kind of sticks out like a sore thumb, though, and that is the area where you push the button to create that plasma blast. And that, unfortunately, doesn't really have much in the way of texturing or anything to it. Like, you could see a little tiny hint of it, but for the most part, it really does stick out like a sore thumb and is definitely a little unfortunate for the figure. The area here that connects to the wings also looks incredibly unnatural, but there's a little bit of an action feature to that, so I guess that's why, you know, it's meant to look that way for now. Also, when you move out from the body into the wings, another thing that is, again, kind of an eyesore for the figure is the fact that you have a very nice, very dark tone here, and then as you move out, it almost turns into a lighter tone of black. It also doesn't have the shine that the rest of the body has, so it does, again, look a little unnatural as far as that goes. The wings, though, do have a really nice rubber reel feel to them. So again, the reel feel dragon wings like we've seen numerous times in this line the entire way through. When you get nice and close, the skin texture, again, looks pretty nice as you lead out into the wings. So that's definitely a plus. Of course, you've got both wings. And they do, again, kind of lean back. So it looks like it's, standing. And then you can push the action feature button. And I believe that extends the wings out. So then it is flying, which is why it looks like this. Moving back into the rear leg, you can see more, again, texturing, more nice looking scale detail on our Toothless leading down into the foot sculpt. You again have the toes. Everything seems to have that satin shine to it, so you're not going to notice that specifically on like the toenails or anything like we had seen on some of the other dragons. The underside has some okay detail, but a large area is the battery compartment cover there, which doesn't really have very much in the way of texturing or anything like that. As you lead back into the tail, you can see that area looks pretty good. Like, it's fairly vibrant as far as the actual texturing and everything goes. You also have this little area up here that kind of extends out again on the top, and I smacked the camera with the wing there of Toothless, but you can see that also again looks pretty good. You continue to have the ridges following along the back of the tail, but they start to kind of decrease and disappear as you lead down further into the tail. And then as you lead out, you can see again that the straps and everything start to increase, and then we have that area again, the artificial portion of the tail of Toothless, which is also again painted with the brownish tone. And then you again have the area over here that my camera doesn't want to focus on that does in fact still have the texturing and everything to it, which looks pretty decent. So again, there's not usually a whole lot that you'll get out of a Toothless figure, and when it comes to like color variation or anything, or not much in the way of difference, but I think as far as what I would expect, this is definitely a very nice version, probably one of the nicer versions of Toothless that I've seen, with some kind of downsides like the wings looking unnatural, the area that connects to the wings looking unnatural. There's just some small downsides. Another thing is we do have the area over here with some holes in the stomach of Toothless that is for the sound to escape from. I think that as well is a little bit unfortunate. It would have looked nicer if they had found somewhere on the underside to put it, but we do have a pretty big battery compartment down there, so I guess maybe this was their only option. But I am intrigued to see the Plasma Blast as well as the noises, so even though we have the lights on, we're going to just go ahead and give it a shot quickly. First of all, you push that, and all of a sudden the wings extend out, and you can now see the neck leans forward and the mouth opens. So I'm not sure how to get the plasma thing going, but let's try it again. Oh, there we go. Well, something happened there. It's like he hypes me up and then doesn't actually do it. Maybe that is it. I don't know. So there are definitely some interesting noises here. You can see the blue in the mouth, which is pretty nice. I'm going to go ahead and actually dim the lights, and then we'll take a look at it from there. So let's go ahead and now see it in the dark. That does actually look pretty cool. Let's just watch it with the mouth closed. Does look neat. Let's watch it from the front. That looks super, super cool. Definitely a fun action feature. As far as a size goes on Toothless, if we go from the head to the tail, you are looking at around 20 inches or around 51 centimeters for a height to the top of the horn there on the head, about 4¼ inches or just shy of 11 centimeters. And then for a wingspan, which it does have a pretty decent wingspan, although I'm not going to get it perfectly because the wings bend so much, but you're looking at around, I would say if we lifted the other wing up, about 25½ inches, or around 64.5, closing in on 65 centimeters. For a size comparison, there is Mr. Papo T-Rex, the Attack Back Colovosaurus, Robert Muldoon, and the Collect Day Human Being next to our Toothless, and as you can see, again, the figure is definitely quite sizable. You can very clearly see that with all of these others. Unfortunately, I don't have any other Toothless figures to compare with it, which definitely is a bummer, but I will bring in the other dragons that I do have so far. Here is a comparison with the largest dragon that I have in the line, which is the Titan Red Death, and we can see that one is very clearly a lot larger than our Toothless. And then of course we also have the Deadly Natter, which we can see is a bit smaller than Toothless, and I think that's pretty much to be expected when it comes to the Plasma Blast version. And again, the only other dragon that I've reviewed so far, which is Gronkle, and you can see definitely a figure that I knew was going to be significantly smaller than our Toothless. And then for one more comparison, just to give you guys one idea of a size of this Toothless next to a Mattel figure, we have one of the Wild Roar Rajasaurus here, and as you can see, it is, you know, kind of similar in body mass and everything to the dragon, just obviously Toothless is a bit larger because it has significantly longer body length and, of course, wings that are pretty big. So when it comes to like the actual body itself, minus the length, they're kind of similar, but Toothless ends up being larger because it has a much larger appearance with the addition of the wings and the longer tail. So this brand new How to Train Your Dragon Plasma Blast Toothless is pretty cool. Definitely when it comes to a Toothless figure, it is pretty fun, but of course, you know, there are things on these figures that I would personally like to see, like more articulation, especially out into the tail. When it comes to a dragon, and specifically one like Toothless that has a longer tail, it would be fun to have some form of playability with the tail, and we don't really get that so far, honestly, at all in this line, but it does have some pretty decent texturing throughout. It also has the classic colors of Toothless, which looks nice. It has a very realistic and lifelike look. The saddle and all the straps and everything are sculpted and painted quite nicely. The only areas that I'm not a big fan of would be the way that we transition into the wings. It looks unnatural. It looks very, very mechanical, which I guess there's not really much they could do about that. And I also don't quite like the fact that the wings look so different than the body when it comes to how shiny and everything they are. The Plasma Blast, though, itself looks really fun. It's definitely a fun action feature and does include some pretty cool noises. So if you are interested, I will include a link in the description to where you can purchase this on Target.com, or you can, of course, head in store and grab it there. So make sure you check that link, grab it if you want it, and like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next review. Thanks for watching.